Hello, folks. I'm back. Things have gotten a little bit better, so I want to take you out and show you. Oh, let's go to right now. I'm running a focus exposure on Andromeda. I'm trying, this is an automatic focusing thing that does. I'm getting ready to shoot the blue filter. Clouds have parted. There's some out there, but they're leaving me alone. And so it looks like we have gotten us a pretty decent focus with a 95% quality rating. And that's good. So now it's plate solving, and it's going to center the galaxy Andromeda for me. And that's a good thing because I would hate to have to do it manually. Uh, do, 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 do. But I tried earlier in the evening. We went live, and clouds just came and stayed, and so I'm taking validation. Okay, there's our Andromeda. I'm taking calibration frames. Did I say validation frames? I'm taking calibration frames, and last night I took everything but the blue channel, and the only reason why I didn't take the blue channel is I wasn't paying attention. I did not have it checked. I had everything else checked but that. So when I'm done, I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to bring back up my calibration sequence, and I'm going to finish. I've just finished the 60-second ones, and so now we're going to do 20, 120 seconds, and then 20, 240 seconds, and then 20, 300 seconds. But that's about 4 hours of imaging left. So this is going to take an hour and 14 minutes, and it's going to be more like an hour and 25, hour and a half after dithering. So that's what it is. But I'm going to stay up and babysit this and make sure that works okay. And let's head over and see. I'll show you what bad seeing looks like. Oh, I'm also processing the sunspots I did, uh, trying to do three things at one time. Let's go over now to Astro 1, and there's Jupiter. Look how awful. This is the worst scene I've ever had. And I've had some where the planet kind of bounces around, but look at it. It's just that's crazy. And it's been that way since the clouds left. So there's no point in even trying to image with that. AutoStacker can't manage it. Um, it would try, but I don't know. I think if maybe if you took say 20,000 frames and kept say 15%, 10%, 15% of those, you might be able to pull off an image. But if you're going to take 20,000 frames at 25 frames a second, then you're going to get an awful lot of rotation uh, during just that one sequence. So that's what you're up against. Uh, However, the fun is in the trying. So I'm going to try. I'm going to be here doing Andromeda, and then going back and running the balance of my calibration frames. I'm going to be here anyway, so I'm just going to let this uh, let the scene changes throughout the night, and hopefully as this thing climbs in the sky, but it doesn't climb very high. Uh, the planets are very low in the sky this year, so when I don't know. But last night, when I finally got to do some imaging, the scene was ridiculous. Now, the scene on the over by Andromeda is an awful lot better, and I'll show you the guiding was better. Let me take you over to here, and let's bring up. It was better. I don't know. It may have. Nah. It's around 69, 70, so it's not great, but I've had worse, a lot worse. So, okay, now let's go, I don't want that. Let's go back to our planet and let's back off. I'm at 400% because I never bothered to put, I haven't cleaned I've got to clean, blow off my Powermate filter. I just never got around to doing it before I put it back on. And I was actually seeing debris on the planet when I zoomed in uh, last night with the power, or the 2 nights ago with the Powermate on. So I took it off and I was going to clean it, put it back on. But I wouldn't want to image Jupiter to be too small anyway. So I just made up my mind. I forgot I didn't put the Powermate on. So let's go back to Atto. And that is just ridiculous scene. And let me go down to here. Now, guiding on this side where the scene is terrible is at 165 RMS. That's twice as bad as over on the other side where Andromeda is. So we're in different parts of the sky and the scene differs that much. So don't ask me how that happens. I just know it does. And why does scene cause a problem in your guiding? It's because the guides, you see how the planet's bouncing around? Well, that's what your guide star is doing. But the mount doesn't know that. The mount thinks the guide uh, star is moving, and so it tries to move when it doesn't need to, when it doesn't do any good. It's just the guide star is being affected by scene, and it's bouncing around and undulating all over the place. And this mount is thinking, we got mount problems, so nudge it here or nudge it there. And so it's nudging it in RA and in deck, trying to figure out how to keep the guide star centered, and it can't do it. So it can't do it when scene is this bad. So last night, this same kit was guiding at under, both of them were under 60. So 0.60 RMS. And today it's 161. And nothing's changed. I mean, they stay on a pier. I haven't made any changes at all. Nothing moved. I did throw a towel over them during the day and put the umbrella up to protect them. But I just do a towel just to keep the birds from landing on them. By the way, don't. My wife loves her birds. I do too. We've got probably. I know we got four hummingbird feeders out, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bird feeders. 1, 2, 2 birdhouses on this fence. We have 5 birdhouses on the back fence, and bluebirds. We got a lot of bluebirds, and one birdhouse over here on this other fence. I hit it with when I'm backing up with the lawnmower all the time. You curse it. That one. What was I doing? Oh, we're going to stop guiding, and let's go take a look at Saturn. Let's see if the scene is as bad for Saturn. Right now we're on Jupiter, so let's click on Saturn. Actually, let's find it here. That way I know that's where we're going. And let's slew there. So here goes the telescope over to Saturn. It's getting close to the meridian. I think last night we looked and Saturn crosses the meridian at 12 It's around midnight. All right. Let's bring up PhD so we can start looping. Let's clear this out. And we're going to have to move Saturn. Where's my hand controller? And let's move Saturn. Let's see, south. We're going to have to change the guide speed to at least 2. And is it east? I think it is. Yep. Boom, boom, boom. And south. Too far. North. Is that my Mimi? Coming up the steps. All right, let's see now. What do we want to do? Let's bring up our, whatever it is, shark cap. And Saturn is so much more it's not as bright as Jupiter, big time, not as bright. So let's bring up 400% and let's move it. Seeing is bad. I don't think it's as bad, but it's bad. Let's see, this is oriented differently, so I got to go, I think, north, and we're going too fast. Let's go down to 1 times sidereal, so we went south and west. Nope, east. Nope, west, it was right. We'll get them in the crosshairs. And that's close enough for, that's close enough. All right, now I'm going to bring up, what am I going to bring up? I want to sync this so I don't have to recenter it next time. And I want to bring up this, and I'm going to click on telescope, sync, and telescope, sync, and it's not going to do it. Usually it asks me, am I on Saturn? So I need to close it down and bring it back up again, but I'm not going to. Okay, let's go back to, PhD 2. Let's go ahead and find some guide stars and start guiding. I'm going to guide with this bad scene at 1 second. Either do one thing or the other in bad scene. Either guide at 5 seconds or maybe 6, or guide at a half a second or 1 second. For me, and if you have a Skywatcher mount particularly, and so RMS is at 0.81, and a while ago it was at 1.67, so it's a little better, but I'm also guiding at 1 second. If I try bringing this down to a half a second, and I went up to 101. So let's go back down to 1 second. Reset this. It's still not good. It looks stable, but trust me, this guide star is doing its thing. All right, we're in the 50s, 60s. We're going up 70s, 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 70s. So 1 second is the magic number for this right now. If seeing gets better, I'll bring it up to 1 second. I'll bring it up to second and a half or 2 seconds. Had to big deck adjustment, probably backlash, and an RA adjustment at the same time. Now, a lot of times when you have something like that happen, when they both move in opposite directions, the mount gets bumped or uh, almost some kind of a creature lands on it. Something's doing it again. And of course, it could be all backlash related, because I have a ton of it in this particular. Well, we're back up to a minute oh, 1 arc second RMS. Oh, not a minute, 1 arc second. All right, let's go out and look at Saturn. And one of the things you can expect if you're going to guide on a planet, don't image. Unlike deep space, don't image if you're going to guide on a planet. And if you want to just keep it there until seeing gets better, guide. But stop guiding if you're going to image, because sometimes the corrections are pretty big and it makes the planet jump. And you don't want to be imaging when it does that. And it may jump as much as the mount moves it for a correction. So as a rule, I will not, when I start imaging, I will not guide. But when I'm just going back and forth and working on something else, then at the same time, maybe another telescope, and I just don't want it to go wander off on me because of drift or something. I don't ever have that much drift that it leaves my field of view, but polar alignment has been pretty good for both of these. When I put the kits back up, I took them apart and I greased them and cleaned them up real good. And on the solar mount, I put some ceramic bearings in. But other than that, all I did was clean and put some lithium white grease, everything up real good, and put them back together. So I really haven't seen that big of an improvement, but I do know deep down they're clean. And since I keep mine out 24/7, I actually don't think they're any dirtier than if I kept them in the house because of the telegizmos, but who knows. Okie dokie. Guiding over here on the other kit where I'm doing my can't talk, guys. Andromeda images is still, it's in the 56 range. So I mean, that's just, it's the same. These are both, which doesn't mean anything, but these are both Atlas Pro EQAZ mounts, identical. Acquired, purchased almost at the same time. Bought two of them, got two of them. And the guide cameras are exactly the same. Lodestars, Starlight Express Lodestars, Lodestar 2s. Is that what it is? The guide cameras are a little different. I mean, the guide scope's a little different. One's a 280 millimeter, a 260 millimeter Orion. The other's a 240 millimeter ZWO. But the difference in the two is where they're centered in the sky. This is in the south, and Andromeda's in the north. So go figure. And shooting in the south, I'm shooting over rural area. Shooting in the north, I'm shooting over the city of Spartanburg. So you would think guiding would be worse there, just because of the influence of all the concrete there and the heat coming off the concrete from having 90-degree plus days. Although this time of night, a lot of that cooling is happening. And Andromeda's a little higher in the sky right now than is, well, they're about the same probably. So it isn't that. Just talking out loud. All right, let's see what's happening to let's see what happened to our images. We've got 17 out of 100 taken, and we've got an hour left, and then I'm going to boot up the calibration frames, and this is what my blue filtered images look like. Let's do a medium stretch. That didn't help. I don't think you can see it on YouTube because the clarity of 1080 HD even on YouTube doesn't really help out, but there's a lot more detail right here than this 45-second is showing image. A lot more signal. And when I stack 100 blues, yes, these are my dust spots that I'm going to flat out, and I don't know whether I'm going to use the flat darks or the bias yet. I haven't seen any difference. Those people who know a lot more about this than I know are absolutely convinced that if you have a CMOS camera, that you need to subtract from the flat frame the signal that comes from an exact exposure that you took your flat at. So if you took your flat at 2 seconds, then your bias or your flat dark needs to be 2 seconds, so that you're removing precisely the correct bias signature or electronic signature of your camera. There's all kinds of artifacts created by the sensor for long exposures, which these really aren't 45 seconds, but for really long 5, 6 minute, 10-minute exposures, the sensors get hot, and then you'll have but a little bit of a break and you're taking another one. So they warm up, and that heat creates thermal noise, and that's the color and the lume noise that you see on that's the biggest damage. But when you look at your bias, your master bias, sometimes you see the banding, which is the electronic signature of your sensor, and every camera sensor has an electronic signature. It's kind of like you call it electronic signature. I got that from Adam Block, but that sums it up. It's exactly what your cameras. Go ahead, and we don't need you anymore. So confirm. We'll put you to sleep. We don't need the outside cameras. Okay, back to here. The electronic signature is what happens when you take an exposure, extremely fast exposure. It's what shows up on your sensor when there's really no time spent exposing. It's just, a 2-second exposure is nothing. 5-second exposure now, that is a little more signal. And so if your flats are, if you're taking under 1 second flats, then just take bias. Don't worry about flat darks. But if you're taking 5, 4, 5, 6-second flats, then I would take flat darks, and because you're getting a little more of a electronic signature when you stack those in a master. That's going to be a lot more uh, real artifacts from the sensor than you would have had if it was biased. So and to get a calibrated flat, all a calibrated flat is the flat frame minus the bias, or the flat frame minus the flat dark. That is what your calibrated flat is. Now I've told you absolutely everything I know, and that's it. I don't really know much more about it, but I have figured that out. Voila, voila. Voila, voila. This is a fun hobby, and I love to do it. It is the second most fun you can have at night. Hmm. Camera's cooled at minus 15. It's holding its own. A while ago, wasn't it at 70 some percent? And it's part of the reason is that temperatures, well, they're still in the low 70s, and that's what it was 2 hours ago. I don't think it's dropped that much. Uh, the dew point though is 72, and I don't know why my dew heaters aren't on. They should be. Oh, it's disabled. I want A, and I want auto dew heater for A and B. Okay, A and B are my. I think it's maybe A and C. I don't know what I have it plugged into. I'll have to look. But since I reconnected everything up, um, I'm not even absolutely sure this is my focuser. I gotta go look and see where things are plugged. And no, I know it's not right because this has to be the focuser's not working yet. It's drawing amp. So this is either the mount or the camera. This is either the mount or the camera. But I'm not taking flats, so there's no current being drawn there. So that's probably right. That's where my flat Spicaflac plugs in. And but I didn't use the Pegasus when I was taking flats. I just plugged it in directly to the laptop because I had plenty of USB ports. But this isn't the mount, so I could change the name when I find out exactly what it is. I think this is probably the focuser because there is no focusing going on, so I'm not drawing any current. But the camera's cooling, that's drawing current, and I don't know if you saw the last video I did, and I have a power cord going to my camera, and I have like 3 different plugs, so I can plug in a lot of different things. And a friend of mine who's an electrician type guy, engineer, he said when I saw that I cringed because those are so not good. And I said, well, ordinarily I would agree with you, but when I'm only pulling 1.5 amps and period, uh, there's just nothing coming out of it. We're not even pulling an amp on the focuser or the camera, so uh, it's just there is. I mean, and I have my cameras. I'm not my cameras. My laptop's plugged in to that, and they don't pull any current, so you get by with it there. But now, if I had the 4 or 5 of them plugged into each other and had lamps and inside computers plugged into them and televisions and VCRs or whatever they are. Do they have VCRs today? DVD players. Uh, how old I am. You can tell how little I spend with the TV. Watch none. Football. Football, some baseball, but I watch a lot of football. I played it all through school, coached it out of high school, I coached it out of college, and would be doing it today if I could put shoes on my children. But it was hard to make a living. All right, we're still gathering good data here. You know, you don't have to be a nerd and love astronomy and be into this. I read everything I can about it. I watch every YouTube video from anybody that's working in astronomy that I can find and have ever since I found them. How thankful I am for YouTube videos. For people like Adam Block and Warren Keller and Peter Prolak, Ron Beecher, and Donald O'Donnell, and Sean Nielsen, Trevor Jones, Chuck Ives, one of my favorites. He's a card character. Good people too. You could call it in a way we're all a little bit weird, but put me in a room with 25 football coaches and you want to talk about weird. Go to a coaching clinic and they have stacks of raw ground beef. Coaches, they call them cannibal sandwiches. I never participated. I don't drink. So I'm one of those, not for religious reasons, because in college, I got sick from it. And I swore, that's it. I'll never put myself in that position again where I'm so out of control. And I was sick. If I want that feeling, I can spin around in circles 20 or 30 times and I get that same feeling of the room moving around. But doesn't matter whether you drink or not. I wouldn't eat raw hamburger on a cracker, Melba toast, and onions. They cut up onions. The onions were good. Those Baudet onions. And these guys are running around in these clinics drinking beer out of long neck bottles, eating cannibal sandwiches, raw oysters. And you know what? I don't think any one of them really liked it, but they're football coaches. So that's weird. I was one of them. I did try it. I love raw oysters though. Growing up in Florida, if you don't like seafood, then you're going to have to look long and hard for alternative food. All right, let's go back out to the other, see if scene's gotten any better. And I will show you how I processed the solar images that I took. I will show you that on a video. I'll do that processing on a recorded video. I won't do it live because it takes so long. Okay, all right, now let's go back to here we go, to Saturn. Guys, it's still jumping all over the place. Just think about, though, the fact that I'm sitting in my bonus room. I call it it's my man cave, my observatory. And I'm connected by Wi-Fi. I don't have extenders, just regular charter internet and a router Wi-Fi. And I've connected outside. And I'm as far away from the telescopes as I could be in the house. Not by choice, but that's where the room is. I don't know how far it is, but it's over 50 feet. And I'm shooting through my entire house because I have to go through every wall in the house. It's not a big house. We downsized from a huge house and to a single level house. So we wouldn't have steps to climb. My wife wouldn't have. She, in our late 70s, is arthritis is taking its toll, and going up and down steps became something rather hard. So we downsized about 6 years ago, and I put this observatory in my backyard. But it was in the only place I could put it. So I have a Wi-Fi signal. Is it a great signal? Well, here it is down here. It's on the. It's got 5 bars, and you've seen me going live, and I haven't lost the signal, but maybe once or twice. That's during the daytime. I don't know why in the daytime I'm more inclined to have to restart this, but it restarts right back up. Okay, let's go back over and look at Jupiter and see if it's as bad shape as it is, and then I'm going to sign off And but I wanted you to see bad scene. I also wanted you to know I was going to be able, it looks like, to get in my blue filtered Andromeda images, and then I'll finish the night off with the rest of my dark calibration files. So let's stop guiding, which at 1 second is around 87. So for that poor of scene, that's doing pretty good, but it wouldn't be that good if I went up to, you watch, we go up to 2 seconds. We're at 88. May make a liar out of me. It's getting better. Now 86. Well, shows you what little I do know. 85. Well, we'll leave it at 2 seconds. 84. So we've gone from 87 to 84 in less than 30 seconds. So the advice by Bruce Waddington with, he's one of the developers with PhD2, is when scene is bad, run up your exposure to 3, 4, 5. Don't try to chase the scene is the thinking. But I stumbled on 1 second and half-second exposures in bad scene and found that it really, for some reason unexplainable, I don't know how to explain it, I just know it did great. I'm now at 80.80. I may end up in the 70s before it's over with. Well, I'm going to leave it alone. Now I'm going to move it. We're going to stop it. We're going to go over and look at Jupiter. So stop. We're at 79. Clear. Let's bring up our Cortez de Sol, and Jupiter's a little higher. Maybe it'll just be a little, maybe it'll be a little less volatile, more stable. So let's zoom there. And here comes my mount. We're on the same side of the meridian, so it's a quick trip. And let's see, I like to use my guide camera. It's kind of like a finder scope. Here's all the moons of Jupiter. Out here's one. Bingo. And we're going to change this to 2 times, so I'll move my mount. Wrong way. Really wrong way. I put the bullseye in. You can find that if you go up here under view, and I put the bullseye in just to help me. If I can center, if my guide camera is synced with my telescope, then I just use this. It has a larger field of view, particularly if I'm using the TeleVue PowerMate 2.5, because the field of view is so narrow, and I'm not outside to look through the finder scope to center it. So when I'm inside like this, it's hunt and peck if you don't have some technique. So I use my guide scope as my finder scope. Let's go. Real. Okay, if it doesn't move, then it ought to be in the picture over here. There we go. Even at 400. All right, let's drop our gain down And let's drop our exposure down a little. And it may be just a tad better, but it ain't a whole lot better. I could probably image at this. It's better. Keep in mind now, I'm at 400%, so we're going too much. Let's go back to 1 times sidereal now. I don't know why I have to have it centered. I just like to. All right, let's bring up our guider. It's not actually completely centered on that either. And let's start guiding at 2 seconds and see what kind of an RMS we get on this. We didn't move that much further though. It ought to be about the same. At 2 seconds. We're at 55 now, 53.53. When I say 55, I mean we're at 0.49. What's important if you're doing deep space imaging isn't really so much this number. I found out it is the difference between your RA and your declination. These numbers need to be very close, like 38, 36. That's good. That means your stars are going to be round. But if your RMS, when you add these two, you get your RMS value, or you get your RMS value from these two numbers. You might have an RMS value of 1, but you've got an RA of 0.9 and you've got a declination of 0.2. They're so far apart, you're going to have oblong stars. You still got a good RMS, but you're going to have oblong stars. So your RA and your DEC, like right now, look, it's 0.33 and 0.79. On a Smith-Cassegrain, it's going to create, and my RMS is really 0.97. It isn't all that bad on a Smith-Cassegrain. By the way, I'm going to go an 8-inch. I'm going to go down here to 1 second, see if it gets any better. I will tell you this, the scene of Jupiter is, oh no, starting off bad. The scene of Jupiter is, looked worse to me. Maybe not this last time, but overall it looked worse than Saturn did. Let's clear that out. We got off to a rough start. Okay, here's 1 second. At 2 seconds, we went to 1. And so 1 second, we're at 0.68. And I'm reading down here. And our RA and our DEC are, they're okay. They're not great. You really want to keep them. Now it's getting, spread's getting too much. So if you want to know why you might have oblong stars when your polar alignment's good, then look at your RA, RMS, and look at your DEC. And if they aren't close, then you're going to have oblong stars. Now let me tell you something else. You may have an RMS total that's like 2.5, which is bad. But if your RA is 1.2 and your DEC is 1.21, your stars are round, they're just bloated. They're just bigger than they should be. And boy, that's a lot easier to fix. Bloated stars with like morphological transformation in PixInsight, and now they have the star reduction tool that not only reduces the number of stars but the size of the stars by Bill Blanchard. That's good stuff. But when you have oblong, hey, here we go. I'm at a minute 30. I mean a degree, 1 degree 32 seconds. RMS, terrible. But I'm at 9096 round stars, but bigger stars. That makes any sense? Or probably not make any sense. I figured I learned that from Bruce Waddington, one of the directors, as I'm on their email list, and I'll read all the emails from people who send an email in, and it's a forum like thing, and where people, my guiding has gone to heck, and I don't know why, and I do this and I do that, and I got a mount that costs more in my house. Why do I have bad guiding? And Bruce looks at the logs and can interpret them like I don't see how, and but these are just things I've picked up from his insight and knowledge as a developer, probably the main developer now for PhD 2, since Craig Stark kind of stepped away from it, who's the man who started all this. Okay, well, Bebop Balula, you're my baby. The day the music died. The Big Bopper. Who was the other guy? Buddy Holly, Big Bopper, and a little Richie. What was his name? Killed in the car in a plane wreck in Nebraska or Iowa cornfield, 1957 or 8. The day the music. Oh, RMS is going to be right. It's 1.57. With a Smith Cassegrain, your RMS should be around 0.52, and that's what the with an ASI camera on the Smith Cassegrain 8-inch without a reducer, it's like 0.37. So that's what your RMS needs to be to have the right kind of stars. That's hard to get. That's just I don't get that. I've never had RMS numbers like that. Well, if I have, the scene's been L perfect, and it doesn't last long. But I can keep them under 1 by running the guide assistant, by doing a new calibration, running the guiding assistant. Sometimes when it goes haywire too, what I'll do is I'll just go to the guiding assist. I'll restart, and I'll run the wizard, and with all my gear connected, and I'll just run the whole wizard all over again and create a new equipment profile. Can't tell you how many times that's fixed things. The old equipment profile has the same values, but the new one fixed things, and that were somehow messed up in, I don't know, in the coding, and I don't know. Can't explain it. Bruce Waddington just said do it, and so I've done that, and it does fix things. Terrible, but this is terrible scene too. I bet the scene is really horrific now. Let's go look and see. Yeah, looky. So it's not surprising. This is even worse than it was earlier. This thing is, it's like a ball in the water underneath the water. It goes from a little better to that was horrific while just a few minutes ago or a few seconds ago. Okay, well, let me go back and check before I let you guys go and see how many. We're at 45. We have 55 to go, 40 seconds left, and that will be at 11:30. So at about 12:15, I will be moving over and finishing my calibration frames, and I'll be going to bed at that time. I will have shut down. In fact, I'm going to shut down since I can't image the FCT right now. But before I do that, I'm going to bid you guys another good night, and I hope that wrong need Astro 1, and hope you have a great weekend. I think it's the second time I've said that, but I mean it this time.